Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to all our mentees present here. Mentofy, as you all might know, is an educational and networking platform for mentoring by the millennials. We help you connect, interact, and draw from the experiences of the success stories in your chosen fields. The best success for our platform will be when you get to share your success stories with our fellow mentees then. So what's better than forming this community and completing the circle? So today we have here Rohan with us, who is our prodigy mentor. And Rohan is a 2020 graduate of KJ Somaiya College of Engineering with a degree in computer engineering. Currently, he's pursuing his degree in management from FMS Delhi, that is Faculty of Management Studies. He had given his CAT in November 2019 alongside his 7th semester engineering exams, and he managed to get an amazing 99.9 percentile. Slated to intern at Amazon as a product management intern, he is interested in operations and marketing. So let's welcome Rohan. Hi, Rohan.
Hi, Shreya. Thank you so much. That was quite a kind welcome. I'll just share my screen right now. I have a presentation to give.
Sure.
Following which you can open the floor up for question and answers.
Okay. So we'll be covering the agenda items first, and then we'll have the live Q&A. And we'll also be addressing the questions that came in along with the Google form.
Sure. So let's get on with the presentation. First, we come to the CAT exam pattern. And as you can see, there has been quite a substantial change between the exam patterns between CAT 19 and 20. Though the marking scheme remains the same, for MCQs, it is +3 -1 0, which means that you will be awarded 3 marks if you get a correct answer in the MCQs, a negative mark of 1 if you get a wrong answer, and 0 if you leave it unanswered. However, there are some questions which are not MCQs, which are kind of fill in the blanks. So you have to type in your numerical answer in those questions, and for that, the marking scheme is +300, which is 3 marks if you get a correct answer, 0 if you get a wrong answer, and 0 if you leave it unanswered. So as you can see in CAT 19, there were 100 questions, 34 quantitative ability, 34 VARC, which is verbal ability and reading comprehension, and 32, which is data interpretation and logical reasoning. And the marks allotted are 102, 102, and 96 respectively, making it a good 300. And the same for CAT 20 is 26 questions in quantitative ability, 26 in BRC, and 24 in DILR. The total marks is 228 with 76 questions. So as you can see, the 99th percentile is somewhere just above the 50% mark. So 50% of 300 is for 150, and the 99th percentile is somewhere around 160. This is not generally the case. However, it was observed for the last 2 years. Moving on. So the most common question I got is, what gets me in the interview room? Now, this is not the general case. However, the scoring criteria depends from college to college. However, as a general rule of thumb, these 4 are usually used in the composite score, which is your CAT score. It will usually, the CAT score is not the actual marks that you will get in CAT, but actually a scaled down score. As you know, CAT is conducted in 2 slots, that is the morning slot and the afternoon slot, and the questions are different for both. So they have to scale down the score to equal the odds. Hence, you will get a scaled down score for CAT. Then your 10th percentage or percentile, I'm not sure which one of it is true right now at the moment. And similarly, your 12th percentage and your percentage in UG course as well. Not many people know this, but the percentage in the UG course is also important for the CAT composite score. Now, after the interviews, you will get to know if you have secured an admission in the top B school that you want, that you applied for. And the composite score is calculated on the following criterions: the CAT score, the 10th percentage, your 12th percentage, your UG college percentage, as well as your UG college. Actually, the UG college is one of the most important factors. For example, if I am an IITian, I will have a higher chance of getting into the college that I want, into the B school that I want. Then there are certain points for work experience as well. And different colleges have different criteria for scoring you based on your work experience. For example, 0 to 12 months you will get 2 points, 12 to 24 months, you will get 4 points, something like that. I think it will be displayed on the website of the B school that you're interested in. Then course diversity points. Now I got several questions such that it will be easier for the engineering students to qualify for CAT. Well, this points is specially allocated to even the odds. For example, engineering students can crack CAT quite easily as compared to non-engineering students. Well, that is true, and certain points are awarded for non-engineering students to even the odds. And then gender diversity points, which are generally awarded to non-males. Then your statement of purpose. Statement of purpose is generally not asked by most colleges. However, I experienced that it was asked by IIM Calcutta at least. I don't know about the rest of the colleges. And it doesn't explicitly have points, but it is an influencer during the interview. That is, the interviewer will refer to your statement of purpose while asking you questions. And naturally, there are points for your performance in GD, PI, and essays. Essays are often called VAT, if I'm not wrong. Then the common question that people asked me if is there a formula to crack CAT? Well, actually, many people have scored a top percentile in CAT after just 3 to 4 months of studying for the exam, while several others, they take multiple attempts to crack the exam. Furthermore, cracking CAT does not guarantee you a seat in one of the top B schools, as many of you might know. People from all walks of life give the exam, and it's dependent on each person. Each person has his or her own style of studying, so it's actually dependent on each person. Some people require a proper schedule to be maintained, followed, whereas other people can make do with studying randomly. Engineers and non-engineers, old and young alike, they all give the exam and they have to solve the same questions. Engineers are used to solving maths questions quite easily and at a much faster pace than those with non-engineering backgrounds. They also have an edge while solving verbal ability, though it is often noticed that students with commerce and arts background also have proved themselves to be quite proficient. So I wouldn't say exactly there's a formula. In short, there isn't. So how should you study for CAT? Well, the time to invest into studying for CAT depends from person to person, as I just mentioned. Some people can make do with 3 to 4 months of studying. Some people require several attempts. Ideally, I would say 3 hours per day should suffice within a time frame of 8 months. For example, if CAT is held somewhere around the last week of November, which is the 11th month, I would suggest you start studying from February, or if you are a bit more serious about CAT, January. And ideally 3 hours a day should suffice. Mock tests are the key. Mock tests are one of the most important ways in which you can study for CAT, because I would say solving questions is easy. CAT does not ask any questions which are outside the syllabus of your 10th standard. I think 10th standard is the limit. They don't ask any questions beyond that. So the questions are easy, but solving those questions within the time frame of 3 hours is difficult. And it's not just 3 hours for 100 questions. It's 1 hour for each section. The section ends and the next section begins after 1 hour. So I would say mock tests are the key. However, sitting in for mock tests week in and week out without analysis is futile. You have to analyze your performance in the last mock test before giving the next one. So for example, if you find your marks to be less in, let us say, verbal ability and reading comprehension, then you have to focus on that part before giving the next mock test. Then this is just about CAT. Moving on to the B school interview. Anything and everything can be asked in a B school interview. So for example, if I say I live in Maharashtra, I should know everything about Maharashtra. I should know its history, who ruled Maharashtra when. I should know about the various cultures in Maharashtra, the topography of Maharashtra, so on and so forth. Literally everything, anything and everything can be asked in a B school. I'm actually recounting an instance in which I was giving an interview for IIM Rohtak, and one of my colleagues, I would say, she was asked to sing in the interview because she had mentioned that singing is her hobby. So the interviewers wanted to know if she was proficient in singing. So yeah, anything and everything can be asked in a B school interview. And there is no stipulated time a typical B school interview should go on for. Now people judge the time an interview goes on for as the criterion for which the interview went good or bad. Now this isn't a case for a typical B school interview. It can go on for 5 minutes, it can go on for 20 minutes. It depends on the interview panel actually. So you can have a good interview even if it goes for 5 minutes, even if it goes for 40 minutes. It doesn't really matter. Now, general myths about CAT. CAT is a difficult exam to break. Now, people generally would say that CAT is quite a tough exam and people have spent years giving it, trying to crack CAT. But I would say that I would argue that CAT is not a difficult exam if you study for it sincerely and if you're dedicated towards it. You just require consistency, you just require practice. As I mentioned before, the questions that are asked aren't post the syllabus of 10 standards. So no one should have much difficulty cracking CAT. Of course, many people find VARC quite a tough section to break. I would suggest that if you find VARC a bit tough, then you should read novels, you should read newspapers, so as to inculcate the habit of reading at a much faster pace so that you can read reading comprehensions faster and answer the questions much better. Multiple attempts are required to crack CAT. Many people do require multiple attempts, but I do argue that a lot of people from all backgrounds, from all walks of life, whether they are 30 years old, whether they are 20 years old, whether they are just graduating, or whether they are giving CAT simultaneously while working, multiple attempts are not required to crack CAT. Now, many people think that they will be guaranteed a seat in the top B school if they crack CAT. Now, this is not entirely true. I personally have experienced this. Even though I got a 99.9 percentile in CAT, I did not get an interview call from either Ahmedabad or Bangalore. I just got an interview call from Calcutta. And this was mainly because of my board exams, in which I scored 79.85, which is a quite low percentage. And since it was included in the composite score for the selection of interviews, I was not selected for the interview of Ahmedabad or Bangalore. The interviewers will know if I get a seat in the B school at the end of the interview. Now, the job of the interviewers are just faculty of the B school. The job is not to select you or remove you from the interview. They will just score you on certain criterion they are advised, and they will pass on the scores to the administration of their respective colleges, and the administration of the college will calculate a new composite score based on the following factors that I mentioned before. And a new composite score will be assigned to you based on which your admission will be determined. Now, many people also say that work is necessary to get a seat in one of the top B schools. Yes, it is important. As I mentioned before, there are certain points for WorkX, and as much as 8 points out of 100 can be assigned to work experience, as much as 36 months. I am Ahmedabad. I think it assigns 8 points for 36 months of work experience. So yes, it is important, but it's not necessary to get a seat in one of the top B schools. I think that's it from my side. If there are certain questions, I think I can answer them.
Thank you, Rohan. I think that was very helpful. So a lot of questions did come in the registrations that we had asked for. So maybe I will start asking you all of those questions now.
Sure.
So one of the questions was that why do we have to give the CAT exam? What exactly is it all about?
So CAT stands for Common Admission Test. It is the premier exam in India for securing a seat in one of the top B schools, especially IIMs. Each year it's conducted by a different IIM, as IIT, I think CBSE conducts JEE Advanced and JEE Mains, if I'm not wrong. IIMs are responsible for conducting CAT, and a different IIM is responsible for conducting CAT each year. And yeah, it's just for MBA. That's it.
Okay, right. Also, another one of the questions was that does it matter which type of work experience do you have, back end or front end?
In general, it doesn't really matter. They don't consider what kind of work profile you had before giving CAT. They just look at the work X with respect to the number of months that you had worked.
Okay.
However, it might come up in an interview, depending on the work profile that you had. They will, in general, ask you what projects you did, what roles you undertook, what was your position in the company, so on and so forth.
Okay, so I think the time period for which you worked matters more than exactly
That
the
matters, yes,
right.
that matters for the composite score. However, it can come up during the interview regarding the work profile that you had.
Okay. And I think I know you covered this in your presentation, that how to prepare for VARC. But yet, I think most of our mentees had that question. So, you suggested
Right.
that you should be reading novels and newspapers. But apart from that, if you have anything more that you can add to it.
Right, of course. So I'll tell you my own personal experience. Till the last mock test, I was getting around 18 questions correct and 16 questions wrong. I had this habit of answering each and every question, and that's actually a wrong strategy because accuracy matters in CAT, not the number of questions that you have answered. For example, if a person attempts 18 out of 18 questions correct, he or she will be ranked higher than a person who has gotten 18 questions correct and 16 wrong. Obviously, owing to the negative marking, but even if the negative marking was not a criteria, not a if the negative marking was not present, even then a person who has gotten 18 out of 18 questions correct would be ranked higher than a person who has got 18 questions wrong and 18 correct and 16 wrong. So I would say that just mark the questions which you're extremely sure of. Now, I know it's difficult in a section like VA and RC. However, if you're extremely sure of the question, then mark it correct. Otherwise, don't mark it at all. And further on, I would just say giving mocks is important. Just focus where you're exactly, what exactly is your weak point, because in BRC, there are several types of questions. Reading comprehensions are there, jumbled paragraphs are there, complete the sentences. So, and several of them, I would suggest that you do jumble the paragraph first because they don't have any negative marking. And they also take a comparatively less time as compared to reading comprehensions.
Right. And that would be really helpful when the student is giving the exam. So another thing that the mentees wanted to know was, from where did you study? Like, did you join any classes, or did the internet help you with, get all your resources? And how much time you gave each day to prepare for CAT?
Sure, of course. As I said, CAT does require quite a lot of dedication and sincerity. Uh, I joined Time somewhere around in August 2018. Though I mentioned that January is the time you should start preparing, I myself was not sincere in preparing from August to well into February. So that is why I suggest that around 8 to 9 months is quite a comfortable time frame for anybody to study for CAT. And though I joined Time, there are several other institutes which I'm sure are good enough for anybody to be helping in cracking CAT.
Correct. And what if some mentee wants to prepare by himself? Like, he's not willing to join any classes. So if someone wants to do a self-study, would you give any tips for that?
I would just say that prepare a proper schedule because coaching institutes, as you know, they have certain tricks and tips up their sleeve which they um, tell the students to follow. They have a certain method of preparing their own schedule. Some classes they take around 3 hours every alternate day, that is roughly 9 hours per week. So I would suggest the people who are studying on their own to have a proper schedule. That's it.
Right. And I think MBA is something that people from different backgrounds and different degrees pursue. So we had a question that said that if somebody wants to go for the travel and tourism industry in the future, how should he go about, doing his MBA?
All right. So if that person is present in the webinar over here, I would like them to unmute and speak out if they can, or just write it on the chat. I don't exactly understand the question. What would they like to do pertaining to the travel and tourism industry?
You all can, I think, raise your hands if the person who asked that question is present. Okay, I don't see any hands raised. Then maybe we can take it up later.
Right. All right.
Okay. Then people wanted to know how much was your score in mock tests.
Okay, I think Atharva says, "Hi, I'm there."
Okay.
Were you the question? Were you the person who had asked the question regarding the travel and tourism industry?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Atharva, I'll just unmute it. Yeah.
Yeah, good evening. Hi, I'm
Hi,
Atharva.
Atharva.
Yeah, actually, my question was like I am currently pursuing a hospitality degree, currently
Okay.
the last year. So I wanted to know like if I could do any MBA in travel and tourism or hospitality. Is there any course like that?
As far as I am aware, there is no course as such in MBA in India, at least, which will help you pursue a career in travel and tourism industry. However, that is just owing to my limited knowledge. As far as I have researched and I have observed in several top B schools. However, I think you would get a better answer if you searched online, if you searched the web pages of several top universities outside India as well, perhaps. You would gain a better understanding of the topic.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Atharva. So coming back to the next question, which was how much was your score in mock tests?
All right. So the score is not important. It's the percentile that matters. The score could be as low as 120 out of 3. When I gave CAT, it was 300. I do understand it's probably 228 right now. Um, when I gave CAT, it was 300. So I used to get as low as maybe 120. I used to get as high as 210. It doesn't really matter. It all depends on the percentile that you get. And within mocks, I never used to get a percentile higher than 98.7, if I recollect correctly. I usually got a percentile somewhere around 97 to 98.7. That was the
Okay.
general ballpark. And usually the coaching institutes that conduct these mock tests keep the mock tests slightly tougher than CAT so as to get an average understanding of the student's caliber. And if you're getting a certain percentile X, then you can be sure that you will get somewhere around X plus 1 to X plus 0.7 in the final exam.
Okay, so the mentees should definitely not get demotivated if they
Not at all.
get a
Not at all.
slightly lower score in the mock tests.
Not at all. They shouldn't get demotivated.
Okay.
Rather, the score in the mock test should motivate them to focus on the areas which they are lacking, which they feel they are lacking after the analysis. Because as I mentioned, analysis is very important, and they should not get demotivated at all.
Correct. Okay. I think that's
Just a second. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I see several questions in the chat. I will answer all of these questions after the questions that are asked in the Google form.
Yeah, first we'll address the Google form questions, and then if we have time left, then we can definitely take up the questions. But yeah, you all can keep putting your questions in the chat box so that later we can address them together. Then another question was, what was your personal interview question at FMS Delhi?
Okay, so many people don't know this, but I did not have an interview at FMS Delhi. By the time FMS Delhi released its list, it was quite late. It was quite well into May end, I think, and they had to start their academic year. So they decided to cancel the interviews, essays, extempore topics, whatever the process was that year. So I did not give an interview that year. However, I gave an interview for Rohtak, I gave an interview for Calcutta, I gave an interview for the smaller IIMs. As I mentioned, I was not accepted for an interview in Ahmedabad and Bangalore.
Right.
And as I mentioned, most of the questions that they asked were about me, my personal life, my life in Mumbai. They asked me several questions about Mumbai. And since I had mentioned football as a hobby, they asked me several questions about football. They asked me my topics related to engineering. They asked me several academic questions related to that. I think they can ask anything and everything. That's it.
Okay, I think that brings me to my next question. You know, what were the other exams that you gave apart from CAT? Were there any other exams? And, you know, what were the colleges that you targeted?
Right. So as I mentioned, CAT is conducted by IIMs and several other colleges such as FMS, MDI Gurgaon, even SP Jain, they accept the CAT score. However, there are several colleges which do not accept the CAT score, such as XLRI Jamshedpur. They have their own exam, XAT, XAT, and even Narsee Monji, if I'm not wrong, they have their own exam, NMAT, and I guess I just gave XAT and CAT. That's it.
Okay. And were there any particular books that you used to prepare for, say, VARC, DILR, and QA?
As I mentioned, I had joined Time, the coaching institute Time, and I just refer to those books that they are provided. That's it.
Okay. And Rohan, how did you choose that which MBA exactly do you want to pursue?
As in the specialization?
Yes, that's the question.
Okay, so when I got into management, when I took admission in FMS, I was peer pressured that one should take finance after joining FMS because finance has quite a scope going down the line, 5 years, 10 years down the line. But I wasn't pretty sure which specialization to take. And after let us say 2 to 3 months into the academic curriculum, I realized that it was mainly marketing and operations that I was interested in. So the course was actually set up so as to make the students realize which specialization they are interested in. So it's totally normal if you don't have any aim while taking up admission in one of the top B schools, you will just realize it further down the line.
Okay. And, when did you decide that you want to pursue MBA? Because today I think there are multiple options for doing masters. There's MS and MBA and so many just different options. So, how did you decide that you want to go for an MBA? How does one go?
Actually, in my case, it was a pure stroke of luck. It was by the process of elimination.
Okay.
Frankly speaking, I was getting somewhere around a pointer of 8.3, 8.4 in my engineering. And I do agree, the pointer is not the only criterion to know if you're good at engineering or not. But I did not feel after a certain point of time that engineering is actually what I want to do for the rest of my life. And that I realized that I maybe don't want a job in the field of computers for the rest of my life till if I'm working around 60 years of age. So I thought maybe I should do something else. And of course, there was an option of either MS or MBA. And MS was just a further extension. I did not want to be stuck in the technical field. As for example, if you join a company, you will just hit a plateau after a certain point of time if you're in the technical field. Whereas after doing MBA, you can get into the top echelons of the company. You can be in upper management. You can become the CEO, CFO, CEO, whatever. So that's how I decided to take admission in one of the top B schools.
Okay, that's great. I think you got your clarity, which is really great. But I think that depends from person to person. So
yeah. That's true. It does depend from person to person. If one is interested in the technical field, I implore him or her to pursue the masters in the technical field itself. If one is kind of not interested in the technical field, you can surely have a go at MBA.
Right. So one of our team leads is one of our mentees is a team lead in an investment bank with a graduate degree. So he wanted to know how exactly he should start preparing for CAT.
As I mentioned before, it doesn't really matter if you're working or if you have taken an year gap or if you're graduating. It doesn't really matter. It just depends on if you have a proper schedule. If, for example, if you're working 8 hours a day, you're a team lead, you will be working somewhere around 8 to 10 hours a day, I presume. And if you allot somewhere around 2 to 3 hours a day for studying for CAT, after that, I think it would be quite helpful. Also, your work experience will help, as I mentioned that there are work ex points. So you will definitely have an edge over the freshers. However, sincerity and dedication is required, as I mentioned.
Definitely. And one of our mentees said that he is extremely fearful of QA. So, it would be helpful if you could provide a structured approach for it and eliminate the fear.
I think this is more prevalent among the students of non-engineering backgrounds, that they are usually afraid of quantitative ability. However, it's not a subject of fear. I'll recount my experience. So 1 hour was allocated for 34 questions of QA when I was giving CAT 2019. and I had solved just around 10 to 12 questions in roughly 25 minutes. And that is quite a low figure. You should be solving roughly around 20 questions in 12, the starting 25 minutes. So I decided to change my strategy. I started selecting random questions which were placed in the middle. And the one thing which is important to note is that questions are jumbled for each candidate. So even if two students giving the exam in the same slot might have the same questions, the order will be jumbled. So it's usually a good strategy to start selecting random questions rather than actually attempting the questions either from the front or from the back, because random questions would be helpful in answering, because most of the questions that are easy to answer, which will take a less amount of time, are usually placed in the middle. At least that was my experience.
Okay.
So even if you're fearful for quants, do not worry. Just on the day of the exam, just select questions randomly. And I would say practice speed math. That's it. Like, you should know how to do addition faster, how to do multiplication faster. If you want to use some tricks in Vedic math, do use them. I suggest Vedic math is quite an important field for attempting questions in CAT. And just one has to make sure that you're solving at least one question in 1.5 to 2 minutes. That's it.
Okay. So I think practice is the key, just to sum up.
Practice is the key, yes.
Yeah. And Rohan, could you shed some light on the difference between PGDM and MBA?
Sure. Actually, this is something that I myself did not know up till quite recently. PGDM stands for Post Graduation Diploma in Management, whereas MBA stands for Masters in Business Administration. Now, Masters in Business Administration is the master's degree, whereas BBA, which is the Bachelor's in Business Administration, is the undergraduate course. Now, MBA degree is handed out by colleges pertaining to a certain university, whereas PGDM courses are degrees are handed out by the colleges who do not receive any aid from UGC, which is the I don't remember the full form. It's something Grants Commission, which is the central body in India. So PGDM courses are degrees are handed out by IIMs, which do not receive any aid from UGC, and they do not pertain to any university. As a result, the fees are also quite high as compared to University Grants Commission. Right. Thanks, Aman. So yeah, that's it. So MBA degrees are handed out by university colleges such as FMS. FMS pertains to Delhi University. So I will be graduating with an MBA degree. If my friend has taken his admission in IIM Ahmedabad, then he will get a PGDM degree, because IIM does not receive any grants from UGC. As like in India, at least, there is no difference between a PGDM and an MBA course. It's just that outside India, a PGDM is just recognized as a diploma, whereas MBA is recognized as a proper degree. But within India, I don't think there's any difference.
Okay, that brings me to my next question. What's your opinion on MBA in India or MBA abroad? And especially with respect to the current COVID scenario and taking all those things into the mind.
Right. So it's my own personal opinion that obviously a degree from Harvard carries much more weight than a degree in any IIM in India. So if you have enough money, I would say you can certainly try for a degree in MBA outside India, because they certainly do cost a lot. A degree in one of the top IIMs would cost you somewhere around, let us say, 22 lakhs or something like that. So it's quite costly in India, and it is definitely costlier abroad. So if you have money, and plus one of the most important criteria for MBA abroad is work experience. In India, it doesn't really matter. I am a fresher. I got a seat in one of the top B schools. It is not so in the case of US universities. If you want a seat in Harvard, you need to have at least 2 years of work experience.
Okay. So while you were applying to your colleges, did you have to write an SOP? And what would be the tips that you would give for writing an SOP?
As I mentioned before, I had to write an SOP just for IIM Calcutta. It is one of the only colleges that I know of that demands an SOP. I think SPJN also demands an SOP. I'm not quite sure. However, there are very few colleges which demand that you write an SOP. One of the main like a set of guidelines which I would recommend is that you mention why you should get a seat in that college, how getting a seat in that college would enhance your set of skills, and what you bring to the table. Why should they select you over any other student? What does SPJN or what does IIM Calcutta gain by selecting you rather than any other student? So it goes both ways, how you are benefiting as well as how the college is benefiting. So that's what you should mention. Your skill set, your experience, it should be within, let us say, 400 words, I would say. Your SOP should be well within 400 words.
Okay. And what questions to expect in FMS PI? I think that was one of the questions by the mentees.
As I mentioned, I did not give an interview for FMS. My seat was solely based on my CAT score, my 10th percentage and my 12th percentage. However, I would suggest that I would say that it would follow the pattern of any other B school, any other top IIM, in which anything and everything can be asked. So you have to be literally well versed with everything that comes out of your mouth. If you say that you play a particular instrument, you should be well versed with music, you should be well versed with the veterans who played that instrument, and so on and so forth. So you should be literally well versed with everything that comes out of your mouth. And plus, I don't think any other B school has this extempore round which FMS has. For this, I would say that one should kind of read the newspaper, one should be aware of the current affairs. The extempore topics can even consist of abstract topics. One should go through that on the internet. Other than that, current affairs is a key.
Okay. And were there any extracurricular activities which helped you, that you should have in your resume and which helped you will help you get selected particularly?
Actually, I would say that the process of selection, I'm sorry, the process of selection is quite translucent for any B school. You do not actually know on what criteria they're selecting. Of course, they will have your resume, no doubt, but you will not get to know on what particular point they're impressed of you. They're impressed by you. So yeah, extracurriculars are important naturally, but I would not like to comment on what exactly any B school is searching for.
Okay. And I think one of our mentees here is a CA rank holder who said that he does not have any work experience other than a 3-year internship. So he wanted to know what are the chances of getting into IIM A, B, or C?
So if you're a chartered accountant, that holds quite a, I would just say, it carries a lot of weight if you're a CA, because I'm given to understand that the passing rate of CA is quite low, as much as 3% in India. So I think if you're a CA, it would carry a lot of weight. Plus, you would get course diversity points since you're from a non-engineering background in several colleges. So I think it should be relatively easier for you to get into a top B school rather than your peers. I'm not, mind you, I'm not discouraging anybody over here, but I'm just presenting the stark reality that is, because I do not believe in a sugar-coated version. So yeah, GEMS or general engineering males, they have the toughest while getting into management.
Okay.
GEM is usually known as the 3 mistakes of your life. So it's the toughest for them to get into management.
Okay. And what would be the pros and cons of university versus college?
As I mentioned, there's not a huge difference in the curriculum. It's just that PGDM courses tend to give you a much more clearer view of the industry that you will be working in rather than MBA courses, because MBA courses pertaining to the university are much more rigid, I would say. They do not change the syllabus that often. However, the PGDM courses are they're flexible, I would say. They're free to change the syllabus as and when required.
Okay. And we mentioned in your bio that you cleared the CAT, got a 99.9 percentile in CAT alongside your placements and I think final year exams and final year projects. So, how exactly did you manage all of those together?
All right. So the reason I suggested that one should start preparing in January is because I believe that one should not study heavily for CAT during the month of November. That is the last 20 days before the exam, one should not study too heavily. One should usually spend reviewing the mock tests, just reviewing the formulae that they have noted down over the course of time. So that's what I did. And I gave my 7th semester examinations, which were held somewhere around 26th November. And we had a vivas before that. So yeah, even though I gave CAT alongside my semester examinations and my 4th year engineering project, I did not study for CAT that hard in the month of November, so it was considerably easier for me. Though there were certain hiccups in my graduation project, I did manage to clear all of them. So one has to, and I think, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think one of the key requirements of management is that one should be able to juggle several things at a time. So if you do that, you're well versed for management, whether you get into a top B school or not.
So I think staying consistent also, from the beginning.
Exactly.
It also matters. So even if something does come up at the end in the last month of November, it shouldn't really affect the exam.
Exactly. That's right.
That's great. And while applying to IIMs, how much did it matter that you did your bachelor's from KJ Somaiya College of Engineering?
Oh, it mattered a lot because KJ Somaiya is a state engineering college. It comes under tier 3 colleges, and IITs and NITs, along with BITS, I would say, they are given a much higher preference. For example, with my same scores in CAT 10th and 12th, if I was an IITian, I would have definitely qualified for an interview in Ahmedabad and Bangalore. But since I was from KJ Somaiya, which is a tier 3 engineering college, I believe I was not selected. They have their own selection criteria. So yeah, it does matter which engineering college which college in general you're doing your UG course from, because they have a list. They have a ranked list, I would say, in which they mention their order of preference. It is kept a secret. It's all hush hush. They won't declare it to you. But they have their own list in which they rank the order of colleges they would like the students to be from.
Okay. And if someone is aiming to give CAT and GMAT both together, so are you aware of any similarities in the portion, or how should the preparation of both go alongside?
I'm actually really the wrong person to comment anything about GMAT because I don't know anything about that examination.
Okay.
But yeah, actually, I don't know anything about that examination. I would be a wrong person to comment.
So you were focused on CAT, I think, then.
Just on CAT, that's it. And since I was a fresher and I mentioned that the foreign universities do require at least 2 years of work experience, I was guaranteed to not get a seat over there. So I did not focus on GMAT at all.
Okay. And below what percentile should one think of giving CAT again?
There is no strict percentile below which one should give CAT again, because as I mentioned, the 3 mistakes of my life: general, engineering, male. If you get, let us say, below 98 percentile, I think you should definitely think of giving CAT again. That is, if you want to give CAT again, then you should, because below 98 or 97 percentile, I would say one is not guaranteed a top MBA college if he is a GEM, obviously, a general engineering male. However, if you belong from other courses, if you're a female, you will definitely have some advantage over the rest of your peers. If you have certain work ex, you will definitely have an advantage. So people usually give CAT again if they get below 90 percentile.
Okay.
generally, but it's not something which is very much common as to have a certain percentile below which you can give CAT again. It just depends from person to person.
Right. And how did you give preference to college selection? Was there any particular did you make a pros and cons list or any particular method that you followed?
Yes, I did. I did make a pros and cons list. There are several websites on the internet, I shall not name them, which provide their own list of the top B schools in the country. Of course, ABC comes on, they come on the top list of every single one of them. So I just refer to those websites. I researched some courses on my own, like which course is better in which college. For example, FMS is known for its marketing course. I think Calcutta is known for its finance course. So it just depends on which course you want to pursue. And if you don't have anything in mind, if you don't have any specialization in mind that you want to join, I would just recommend you to draw a list of top B schools based on the rankings that they have held for the past 5 years, I would say,
Right.
and just depend on that list.
Okay. And I think I'll just take this one last question from the registrations, and then there are a lot of questions pouring in the chat box. So then you can start addressing them. So this question says that what could be the best time distribution for portion completion, revision, and mock test writing?
All right. So one should study alongside giving mocks. Like even if you're giving mocks, of course, one should study alongside it. So there is no particular step-by-step marking that I would say that one should study and then give mocks and so on and so forth. Revision should be done within the last 1.5 months before CAT. Of course, I mentioned that one shouldn't study too hard during the month of November. So one should start the revision somewhere around the month of September or so, I believe. And one should start studying somewhere around January. They should finish the portion, as the portion is quite easy. It's just the practice that matters. So the portion is quite simple. From January, they should take somewhere around March or April mid, max to complete the entire syllabus of all the 3 sections. And then they should start giving mocks. One should give at least 15 to 20 mocks, I suggest. So yeah, and one should even study alongside giving mocks.
Okay, that's great.
That's the basic timeline.
Okay, so I think now I'll start reading out questions from the chat box. So Yashraj has asked this question that are classes necessary, and if not, please recommend few good YouTube channels for self-preparation.
I did not visit YouTube at all for my preparations, so I'm not really a good person to suggest any YouTube channel because I did not refer to them on my own. I joined Time. There are several other good coaching institutes such as Cat King, IIMs, and there are several others. Classes did help me quite a lot for my CAT preparations, so I would suggest you joining any top coaching institute for CAT. Coaching classes do give you an edge. So yeah, even if you want to do self-preparation, you're free to do that. Several people have cracked CAT even after 3 to 4 months of self-preparation. I know my own peers have done that. So it doesn't really matter. It just depends on how well you know yourself. If you think you need a coaching, if you think you need to join a coaching institute, you should. Otherwise, if you think you can make do with self-preparation, please go ahead.
Okay. And the next question is by Pranav, who says that what would be your advice for someone who has a 85% in 10th and 70% in 12th boards with respect to consolidating their aim when it comes to CAT, MHCET, and applying to B schools?
Oh, that's right. I had also given MHCET. I forgot about that. But I think all colleges in Maharashtra deferred their academic year by 1 semester. I think so. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So if you have an 85%, is the CBSE or state board? Pranav, are you there?
If you could.
You can write it in the chat if it's fine. Okay, ICSE. So I think that comes alongside CBSE. And even 70% in 12th and ICS board. Okay. So I would implore you to give almost all the exams, CAT, XAT, NMAT, and if Symbiosis has a separate examination of their own, please do give that. Otherwise, I'm sure they take their own they take CAT scores. Please do give MHCET. With these scores, you need to put a little extra effort for CAT and all the B school examinations that you're giving. So yeah, that's what I would suggest. Give all of them. And it's good if you have your aim set on the top IIMs or the top colleges such as XLRI, FMS, MDIs, and so on and so forth. But I do recommend you to give MHCT as well.
Okay. And the next question was from Amog, who said that what kind of online free or paid courses can he do in order to get a basic pre-idea of the business basics before doing an MBA. So if someone wants to know what exactly an MBA degree would offer or what it's like, so are there any free or paid online courses that he can do?
Right. So there are several courses available on Coursera by several universities abroad. I think University of Illinois gives a proper course for operations. I myself have undertaken several courses, though I would not say they helped me quite a lot, but I think they would help a person just understand what they are interested in. So just visit Coursera, just search for several courses online by one of the top universities in US. I think no other European colleges offered any top courses as far as I remember. Yeah, just go on Coursera and search for the courses and the specializations that you think you're interested in. Otherwise, you can just visit all the courses for all the specializations. There is finance, there's marketing, there's operations, there's consulting, there is HR. There are several specializations. I suggest you to visit all of them in Coursera.
Okay. And Shashank has this question if he should start preparing from the beginning of his third year.
Okay, so as I mentioned, January, so usually the third year starts from July, right? Yeah, the third year starts from July.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the beginning of third year should be a good place to start. So by the time your third year, you give your, oh, 1 second. You would be giving your 7th semester examinations. Yeah, I think the beginning of the third year should be a good place to start. Of course, you will be getting around, let us say, 7 months for preparation. I think if you can make do with an hour extra per week, other than the 3 hours per day, I think that should be a good enough place to start. If you're certainly not satisfied with your CAT scores that year, and if you want to give CAT again, you of course you will get an extra year for preparation. By the time you will be finishing engineering also.
Right. And I think you answered this question, but Yashraj has asked if, do past academics play a major role for FMS? Is there
Yes, they
anything you would
do.
like to
Yes,
add?
they
Yeah.
do. As I mentioned, FMS does look for 10th percentage and 12th percentage, at least in 2009, at least after CAT 2019. Even now, as far as I'm aware of, they do take 10 standard, 12 standard. However, they would also have a look at your undergraduate performance.
Okay.
Apart from group discussions, personal interviews, and extempore, that is.
Okay. And Aman has this question, if you could suggest some good B schools in India for operations and management.
I would say any top B school is good for operations because the top firms in operations such as Myntra, Flipkart, Amazon, there are several others which offer a good role in operations. They do visit the top B schools, all the top B schools, that is Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, Lucknow, Indore, Kozhikode. These are the top IIMs. Other than that, there is FMS, XLRI, Jamshedpur, MDI Gurgaon, SP Jain. The top firms in operations do visit these B schools. So as such, I would not recommend any college in particular. Just you can keep your sight focused on one of the top B schools.
Right. And Rohan, you said that you had joined coaching classes. So Arya has this question that do coaching classes also prepare you for the interview round? As you said that they ask questions about the place
They do.
you live
They do.
and geography. Okay.
Of course they do.
They do.
They have their own mock interview rounds. The coaching classes faculty recommends you to do certain activities, to read certain topics based on the areas in which you are lagging. It did happen with me. I did lag in several topics. They recommended me certain sources to follow, certain kind of. I was lagging behind in current affairs actually. I had to read quite a lot of newspapers before sitting for the interviews.
Okay.
So yeah, that's that.
Okay. And Aman has this question: which skills are required to excel in the field of operations management? Since I think even you
Sorry,
are.
could you repeat that question again?
Which skills are required to excel in the field of operations management? Since I think you yourself are inclined towards that field.
Right. So just as a general rule of thumb, I think any course in engineering would help you to pursue an MBA in operations, because it's not just a degree, it's not just the knowledge gained, but rather the way you think, which engineering prepares you for the operations field. Because I believe that engineering helps you think, helps a person think in a different manner than a commerce student. Of course, a commerce background will help in finance, but I would say that an engineering background does help in operations.
Management. Okay, definitely. And Nandini has this question: that is it advisable to give the CAT exam in the final year of graduation, or take a drop for the preparation? And will a year drop affect the performance during the interview round?
That's an excellent question. Could you repeat the first half?
Yeah, is it advisable to give the CAT exam in the final year of graduation, or take a year drop for the preparation?
Again, it totally depends on you. If you think you're prepared for the examination, if you think you're prepared for giving CAT that year, then sure, go ahead. And even if you're not, I would suggest you to go ahead and give the examination that year, because it will actually give you an idea how CAT actually is, what kind of questions are asked, what level of difficulty is usually followed in CAT. So yeah, I would implore you to go ahead and give CAT that year. Though if you're not satisfied with your scores, of course, you can give it the next year also. And coming to the second part of your question, of course, it is a minor setback and the focus on minor, because the interviewers would not really view it as a setback if you convince them otherwise. You yourself can drive the whole interview if you know what to speak. If you lead the interviewers in a certain direction, they will ask you questions in that direction itself. For example, if the one of the first questions that they ask is tell me about yourself. And if you mention the reason for your year gap in that question itself, they would be convinced, they would not ask any questions pertaining to that. So it just depends upon you. If you're able to convince the interviewers that it was in your interest, it was in your benefit that you took a year drop, then it's all well and good.
Right. So I think if the person is taking an year drop, then maybe doing some courses or a job or getting some work experience, internships alongside would help cover that up.
Of course, anything that helps the person during the year drop is viewed beneficial by the interviewers. So if a person is doing some courses, if a person is doing an internship, be it paid or unpaid, it doesn't really matter as far as the person is getting some work experience. Of course, that won't be counted in the work experience field. It is just an internship. So yeah, anything that is beneficial for the person himself or herself will be viewed beneficial by the interviewers, and they won't ask any further questions on that.
All right. And Atharva has this question: that being an engineer, would he or anyone from an engineering background be capable of getting into MBA finance, irrespective of the background?
Of course, that nobody is deterring you from pursuing MBA in the field that you want to. So even if you're an engineer and you want to pursue an MBA degree in finance, you're most welcome. Nobody is deterring you. It's just that you should have an interest in finance. You should equip yourself with the skills that are important for finance. You should equip yourself with the knowledge, because you would be in competition with several people who have come from a commerce background, economics background. And it is by my experience that people in economics honors especially, that they excel at finance. And there will be several CAs in your batch as well. So they would be the ones who would be giving you a tough competition in finance. So yeah, if you equip yourself with enough skills, there's nobody to stop you.
Okay. So I think MBA is the degree after which all the paths open up. So no matter what you've done before, which background you are from, I think MBA can
Exactly.
open up the path to any field that you would like to go to.
That's true. Absolutely.
That's really great. And Saloni has this question that for a 2021 graduate appearing for CAT 21, is this a gap year or no?
Yeah, it does technically become a gap year because by the time you sit for the exam, you give the interviews, it would be you would be sitting idle for, let us say, from well over 1 year. So it is definitely a gap year. I would recommend you to do some courses, as Shreya mentioned before. I would recommend you to get an internship, if not certain courses, so as to convince the interviewers that you were not sitting idle during those gap years, during that one gap year, actually.
And we spoke a lot about, doing GMAT along with CAT. So I think Arya has this question that should MBA from foreign be considered along with giving CAT?
I did not quite understand the question. If that person
MBA,
is there,
yeah,
if
I
that
think
person
Arya
is
is talking about doing an MBA abroad. But
okay.
Arya, if you have anything more that you would like to add to it, just let me know. I can unmute you. No, okay. I'm not sure if Arya is present, but okay.
All right, I would answer that question. Or could you just repeat the question, actually?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think she wants to be unmuted.
Oh, okay. Arya, yes.
Yeah, so basically my question was that what are the factors which we should consider while comparing MBA in India with MBA in abroad, apart from the money factor, the value of the degree, and will I be able to get the same output and the same kind of a job with an MBA from abroad in India? So if I decide to do an MBA from abroad, will that degree have same value in our country and vice versa?
I'm not sure if I'm the right person to answer the second part of the question about the value of a foreign MBA degree in India, because I myself am 21 years old and I don't have that experience yet. So, but I would like to say that an MBA from a foreign university would carry much more weight than an MBA in India, because I mean, if you're a top executive in a company and you want to hire a graduate, then would you hire a person from Harvard or would you hire a person from IIM Ahmedabad?
Yeah, Harvard.
Definitely Harvard.
Yeah.
Because it's the weight that Harvard carries. It's the weight that foreign universities such as Harvard or Oxford or Stanford they carry, rather than Indian colleges such as even IIMs or any top B school in India. So apart from the money factor, it's just the name that the foreign university carries. Other than that, I'm pretty sure that the syllabus is almost the same, because after all, it's MBA courses are what the industry demands as a whole. So shouldn't really be different. So other than the name and the money factor, there is nothing really else.
Okay, yeah, and I had one more question, which was so we also have to prepare for the interview round. So, do these coaching institutes also prepare
Yes,
you for the interview round?
yes, they do.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, Arya. Then the next question was from Dhruv, who said, what kind of work experience or what different roles in finance will help give preference while applying for an MBA in finance?
All right. Since I have an engineering background and I'm mainly interested in marketing and operations, I am not the correct person to answer that question. Though I would say that if you're from a commerce or actually economics background, that would help you in pursuing a degree in finance. Uh, Furthermore, regarding to the roles that are offered, I think investment banking would be the most appropriate role, though I'm not exactly sure. As I said, I'm not the right person to answer your question. I think you should really consult somebody else for this question.
Okay. So Rohan, I think we are already over time. So are you willing to take more questions?
Sure, sure, sure. Not
Okay.
an issue at all.
Okay. So next question is from Sahil, who says that how to prepare for the interview if we are asked questions like geography, topography, culture, or all the things that you said about the hometown, like as you said.
Right. So basically, I would say Google it. That's what I did. Now, I'm living in Maharashtra, but I hail from Karnataka. We speak Kannada at home. So I had to literally explore everything about both the states, the rulers who ruled both the states, the history of both the states, the topography. For example, there are Aravalli ranges in Maharashtra. Where do they extend to? I had to learn all about Ratnagiri. I had to learn all about the Vidarbha region because since I'm staying in Maharashtra. So one has to do all that research. One can refer to certain geography books in pertaining to the state board. I think the higher secondary books would cover that. Otherwise, Google to hai hi. You can refer to Google for that. I think that's all I can say.
So a lot of this MBA preparation, I think, makes us go back to our school books, if I'm not wrong,
Exactly.
including
So
maths, English, geography, history. I mean, everything.
right, right. So what they want in what they're seeking in an interview is that the candidate should be well versed with whatever he or she has been through. He
Right.
or she should know everything that is coming out of his or her mouth. You cannot just speak any random stuff in the interview and just get away with it.
Correct.
So if you say that you know certain things, if you belong to a certain region, I would say, then you should know everything and anything about it.
Right. So the next question comes from Varun, who has asked, what is your timeline of 8 months preparation? So for example, when did you start and complete preparation? When did you start giving mocks, and how many mocks did you give?
Right. So if this question is directed to me personally, then I would say that I did not have 8 months of preparation. I had much more than that since I joined time somewhere in August. And hence I had more than a year of preparation. But I was not sincere during my initial months. I actually sincerely started preparing for it from February. And that is when I started giving mocks. So I think 20 weeks should be enough for you to give mocks, since I mentioned that one mock every week and 20 mocks should be roughly enough for it. So 20 weeks of mocks along with studies side by side. Um, then I think 2 to 3 months of preparation should be enough before the mocks for studying the relevant topics in all the three sections. So yeah, I guess that's the timeline. I started giving mocks from February. That's when I started actually taking CAT seriously. And I gave roughly around 24 mocks. That's it. And I used to get somewhere around 97 to 99, 98.7 percentile. I did not get above 98.7 percentile. So one should not be demotivated if one is getting slightly lesser percentile than they expect. They should just know that CAT is going to be a little bit easier than the mocks they're given.
Okay, that's great. And you mentioned that, the undergraduate college does matter, for MBA. So Shashank has this question that if we have a work experience of 2 to 3 years from one of the top MNCs, then, will the undergraduate college still matter, or will it just cover up for that?
It will carry lesser weight, I would admit, than a fresher who has graduated from the same college, because most of the questions in the interview will be directed towards your work experience. And even in the composite score, they would concentrate that you have certain amount of work ex, that you have 2 to 3 years of work experience. That's great, actually. 24 to 36 months of work experience is what the top B schools, especially Calcutta, that's what they look for. So I don't think the undergraduate college will matter that much if you have a work experience of 2 to 3 years.
Correct. And Vaibhav would like to know, how is KJ for MBA? Do you have any idea? So I think he's talking about SIMSAR.
SIMSAR, right.
Yeah.
So the management college in KJ Somaiya is known as SIMSAR, that is Somaiya Institute for Management Studies and Research. If you refer to several websites, it is somewhere around, it comes in the top 150 MBA colleges in the country. Though if you research properly, you would find out that it has a package somewhere around 10 to 12 lakhs, if I'm not wrong. That's what I noticed several websites mention, though I'm not sure if that is the reality. So you can be a judge of your own. Like top B schools would give you somewhere around 26 to 30 lakhs average CTC, whereas KJ is giving you somewhere around 10 to 12 lakhs. It depends. And also you would have to give CET for KJ Somaiya. I'm not sure if they accept CAT scores as well, but I would not actually say, because if we are talking about one of the top B schools in the country, then I would just say ABC, Lucknow, Indore, Kozhikode, FMS Delhi, XLRI Jamshedpur, MDI Gurgaon, SP Jain. I'm sure there are several others. Jamnalal Bajaj is one of them, which you can get via CET. So yeah, I think I have beaten around the bush quite a lot, but that should give you your answer.
Okay. And Yashraj here wants to know what were your academics percentages. I think you did mention them, but if you could just reiterate them.
Sure, absolutely. So by the seventh semester, my average pointer was somewhere around 8.37. I'm a graduate of computer engineering from KJ Somaiya College of Engineering. My 12th boards were 79.85 percentage, and my 10th boards was 93.6. 93.6 in CBSE board and 79.85 in state board, which is HSC.
Okay. And the next question is from Saloni. So she says that she has a 88.6% in SSC, 81% in HSC, 7.6 CGPA, up to 7 SEM, and general female. So what would be the minimum percentile she would need to be considered for top colleges? And PS, she's a fresher, so no work experience there.
Now, since you're a girl, you would be awarded gender diversity points. You have 88.6 in SSC, 81.54 HSC. That's pretty good. 7.6 CGPA. Usually a 8 plus CGPA is recommended in the UG course. And since you're semester 7, I would take it that you're from an engineering background. As I mentioned, there's actually no bottom line for the percentile you need to get. Since the process is very translucent for each and every college, though they mention the marking scheme, how they calculate the composite score on the website of each and every college. Ahmedabad has its own, Bangalore has its own, Calcutta has its own, and it will be mentioned on the websites. There's no minimum percentile. I would recommend you that if you get below 95 or 93 percentile, I don't see any chance. I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm just blatantly blotting out the truth. But you would get to know only after the shortlist come through.
Okay. So Rohan, just before we take any more questions, if everybody could please fill the feedback form, it would be really helpful to us. All our mentees here, please.
Yeah, please do fill the feedback form. If there's something else, some criticism that you have, please do fill it. It would help me. It would help Mentofy a lot. Thank you.
I think the session was extremely knowledgeable because even I got to know so many new things that I wasn't aware of. Thank you so much, Rohan, for that.
Sure, not an issue. There are no more questions?
There's one more question. I think there are 2-3 more questions. So okay. Supriya has this question that how does it feel to pursue MBA at the age of 21, to be one in the crowd of people having work experience?
That's right. So the average age of my batch is somewhere around 24 and 25, while I'm just 21 years old. There are people who are 31 and 32 in my batch. There are people, am I allowed to say this? Okay, I'll not say that. So yeah, people do come from all walks of life. So it does feel good, but after getting a seat in the top B school, you're just one among the batch. There's no differentiation whatsoever. Be it 31 years or be it 21 years, you're all the same. You're all in one batch in one B school. It doesn't really matter what background you have socially. Of course, career-wise, it's a different matter altogether. So yeah, it feels pretty normal. That's it.
Okay. And Rishabh has this question: is it advisable to directly go for an MBA after BTech, without work experience for a college student from tier 3 college in India? I think you being a similar situation.
I think I'm an exhibit A for a person who doesn't have any work experience from a tier 3 college. So
Right.
yeah, you can give CAT. It's just that you have to get a good percentile. But if you do a certain amount of work X, that is 2 years or 3 years, maybe you'll have a better chance of getting into one of the top B schools. That's all I would say.
Okay. And Saloni has asked this question: does volunteering count? I'm not sure what exactly she's talking about. If Saloni, if you could just shed some light on that question.
I think she means social
Work,
initiatives.
yeah, could be like that. So
Yeah,
does
I
that,
mean, it is not explicitly guaranteed any points while calculating the composite scores for selection in either interviews or getting a seat in one of the top B schools. But it is usually, I should say, it's usually viewed in a positive light. It does help you during interviews. They will ask you certain questions about that, and it might help, it might not help. I'm really not the person to say.
okay. And Sahil has this question that if we plan to pursue an MBA after engineering, would his current knowledge about the field, for example, coding, algorithms, would that matter? Are those included in the interview or, somewhere else during the
Yes,
MBA process?
they would matter after joining the B school as well as during the interviews, because as I mentioned, even I was asked certain academic questions, and your current field does matter. They will ask you questions about coding, they will ask you about algorithms, and that knowledge is currently helping me do my MBA also. So yeah, it does matter. It will help
Okay.
you.
And Yashraj wants to know how is JBIMS for MBA? If
So
you have any idea.
JBIMS is Jamnalal Bajaj. It is one of the top B schools in Mumbai. I'm not aware of the CTC that it provides, but it is well known and it's quite good.
Okay. And Vaibhav is asking that out of 22 to 26 lakhs, 26 LPA CTC, what is the actual salary that we get?
I guess after MBA, that's all that matters. Huh? The CTC that you get, the fixed salary that you get.
Right.
Actually, depends on the company. Depends on what part of that is fixed salary, what part of that is bonuses, what part of that is stock units. It all depends on the company.
Okay. I think we have last two questions. Rajneesh wants to know how to prepare for group discussions.
Right. So I would say group discussions, there are certain hygiene factors for group discussions, which I can mention in short over here. One is that you should never interrupt anybody. You should sit straight on your chair. You should continuously look at the camera. Of course, you're allowed to make certain notes from time to time if you have a notebook in front of you. But it's recommended that you look at the camera for at least 80% of the time. You should not interrupt anybody, as I mentioned before. There are certain hygiene factors which you can follow. Furthermore, I would just say that you need practice for group discussions. You should be well versed with current affairs because group discussions do ask on topics which are ongoing. Furthermore, there are several abstract topics as well. So you should be quick on your feet. You should know how to think fast. I guess that's it.
Okay. And last question from Arya. He says that how good is Shailesh Mehta College from IIT Bombay? And PS, he tried getting it in JE but couldn't get there.
So IIT Bombay for engineering is the top school in India, but Shailesh Mehta School is quite reputed, I would say, and it comes within the top 10 B schools, if I'm not wrong. It certainly comes within the top 15. You can refer to several websites. You can just conduct research on your own. It's quite good. Of course, you can take a shot over there.
Okay. And I think that's all. If you guys have any more questions, do email us at hello@mentofy.com. We'll always be there to answer your questions. And Rohan, here as a mentor, Thank you so much, Rohan. I think Mentofy is just honored to have you here today. All our mentees, you answered all the questions really patiently and it was very helpful. So
Thank you so much for having me over here.
We are blessed. So yeah, then I think we can conclude the session for today. And in case if anyone still hasn't filled out the feedback form, please do so. It would be really helpful and helpful to Mentofy and making improvements in our future webinars. And if you guys feel that we should conduct more such webinars for MBA or any sessions, mentoring sessions that you guys would be interested in, please do write to us. All right. Thank you then, Rohan. I think we can close this session.